Hi, my name is Keri, and we are here for Free Advice Fridays. It's something that New Shelves does every single Friday, just as a way to give it back. We answer questions for an hour about publishing, book marketing, and writing. So I hope that you join us. And of course, you can always send in your questions in advance to questions@freeadvicefridays.com. And let's get started. First question is, I have a question about a CIP block. At what stage in self-publishing should you acquire this? And do you need it for just print books or also ebooks? Pat, when you are doing we typically do a PCIP block. And when you are getting a PCIP block, you typically want to do that when your book is finalized. It helps to have a cover, a title page. So when your book is coming together, but not totally done. Clear as mud, right? Because you want to have all of the information for the book. It helps to have the cover. The title should ideally be set in stone, and then you go and you get your PCIP block. And the reason for that and having things kind of fleshed out and ready to go is that that is the cataloging block that will go out to libraries. And if you change the title, if you're changing different information about the book, what happens is you have to update your PCIP block. So having the manuscript as done as possible is helpful, and you definitely want both your paperback and your ebook. And the reason is that there are two different cataloging systems for librarians. They have one for paperbacks and hardcovers, print copies, and then they have another catalog, the MARC system, for digital, audio, videos, different things like that. So you really ideally want both. Now, as far as cataloging and having it in your actual file, absolutely you need it in the print file for when you're printing. Generally, we put that on the copyright page, and then it can go in your ebook file as well. But the main thing with the ebook is that you're getting it in the cataloging system for the digital. So absolutely you want to do that. We personally use the Donahue group, and they are great. Let's see. Yeah, so Terry's saying you have to have a minimum of 2 months for a CIP, but most of you will be getting a PCIP, and that you can get later. You can actually get many ways along the way. You can even get it after your book comes out. It's just not ideal. A library control number, most of you won't actually qualify for a library control number. You have to have a minimum of 10 titles by 3 different authors, which is why we recommend a PCIP. It's kind of a way to get you into the system without having all those qualifications that a larger publisher may have. So, all right. KDP now allows 10 niche categories for your book. What is the most efficient way to use a one-sheet and/or press release? Diane, I'm going to need you to clarify a little bit for me, because KDP categories and a press release or a one-sheet are pretty different. When you are using a one-sheet, when you're marketing your book, you typically want to stick to your bigger categories, to your BISAC. So if it's children's books, and it'd be children's middle grade or children's early readers, that kind of thing. You don't want to, on your sell sheets, when you're trying to sell them to bookstores, libraries, have 10 different categories. Absolutely on Amazon, so you can rank higher and feed into their algorithms, you want multiple categories, but not so much the case for when you are marketing elsewhere. So keep that in mind. Yeah. All right. All right, back matter content. If an author places a page at the back of a book to help promote other books, is it appropriate to include that sales page in the table of contents? For instance, if I had a page with the book cover and details of another book I've authored, should I add this sales page to my table of contents? Here's the thing. For your table of contents, if it is one book, if it is the next in a series or something like that, you can do that. You can say sneak peek of and have that kind of featured on there. If you have a bunch of titles that you're featuring, I wouldn't. I would pretty much only do that if you're doing like a chapter or quite a bit of content featuring that other book. Now, can you include that in the back matter? Absolutely, and I think you should. You should lead people to your other books. But for the table of contents, unless it's a significant amount of matter and it's one book, one topic, I would not include it there. Let's see. How cost effective are BookBub ads? Anita, that's a really good question. BookBub ads can be super amazing. They can be cost effective. They can really drive people to your sales pages, but you can lose a lot of money there too. I think the important thing for BookBub ads is to know that people on BookBub are looking for discount books. If your book is $5.99, $6.99, $9.99, don't even bother. Like, it's not worth it. And I've heard that straight from some of the folks over at BookBub. People aren't looking for books at full price. They're looking for discount books. Now, if you have a book that's $2.99 or lower, BookBub ads can be great. Keep in mind, you have a really, really small set of characters that you can use to advertise that book. They did just add, BookBub added, I think, 3 new styles. So they have different colors and different things that you can do with their ads now, or you can create your own, like in Canva, create your own graphic and upload that. So they're updating all the time. And if you are promoting, know that one of the best ways is to get your book included in a mailing for other books. And that's one of the options. You can advertise on their website or you can advertise in their mailings. And when you advertise in their mailings, you're targeting either a category or a subject like self-help or historical fiction, and or you can push out to comp authors. You have to know your comp authors well. If you are advertising to a group and you're just picking comp authors because they're popular, but it's not really close to your book, it won't take you very far. And also know that as you're setting up your BookBub ads, they typically work best when you do short little bits. If you're doing it for a day or two, this is not something that you do week after week, month after month. It's something that you do intentionally, and that you do it, here and there as you do a discount promo. And also that if you want your book to go out into those mail outs, they typically go out around 11 a.m. So that is the best time to make sure that your ad is up and running by, let's say, 9 a.m. and that your budget is fairly full by that 11 a.m. time. That's where we see most of our expanse. And also know that while Kindle is 91, I believe this year, it's 91% of ebook sales. They have a lot of the ebook sales, but they're not all of them. And for BookBub, a lot, I would say probably half, maybe a third of the sales that we see from BookBub are going to other outlets. They're going to Nook and iBooks. They're going outside of Kindle. So if your book is Kindle only, you may not get the response that you want because people tend to be looking for a broader sale base on BookBub, in my experience. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. We had a question about distribution, and the question for distribution was, why would I use KDP and Ingramspark both for my paperback? Isn't that a lot of work for the same thing? And the short question, or the short answer on that, is yes. As you are using Ingramspark for your paperback, you can have them push out to Amazon and distribute to Amazon for your book. However, if you have a wholesale discount on your book, which for bookstores, we would typically set at 55% at Ingramspark. That gets pushed out to Amazon because they're buying wholesale. So if you upload to Ingramspark for your paperback and you upload to KDP for your Amazon book, then you will be making higher profits because KDP sells directly to Amazon. You get a 60% cut after print costs. And so you're making a little bit higher of a royalty going directly to Amazon, opposed to the other way if you're pushing up from Ingramspark. Another reason to use KDP directly rather than doing everything in Ingramspark is that when you have a KDP account and you're setting up your ebook and your paperback there, you can advertise your ebook and your paperback through KDP on Amazon advertising. So that gives you some more opportunities to push your book out there, and that's why we recommend it. It's also easier to verify Author Central that your books belong to you when you upload to KDP. I talked to someone earlier in the week who is, she's a pro in the industry, but she's having a hard time claiming her Author Central profile because her books are only through Ingramspark, and so she's having to go through several steps to verify on Author Central. So do you have to use both? No. If you just need simple, you can absolutely just use Ingramspark or just KDP. But if you want to make the most profit and have the most access to different things like advertising, you use both Ingramspark and KDP. KDP, of course, for Amazon specifically, and then Ingramspark for pretty much everywhere else. Barnes & Noble, Ingram Wholesale for bookstores and libraries. So just keep that in mind. I know it's an extra step, and I know people kind of push back on that, but it's worth it, in my opinion, to have the access there. All right. Would you advertise the fact that your book hit the top 25 or top 10 on Amazon, or wait until you hit number 1? Also, do you need to hit those numbers in all 3 categories, or would a number 25, 10, or 1 and 1 make you an Amazon best-selling author? So if you hit number 1 in any category, you are a Amazon best-selling author. You have hit number 1, you get the orange banner, it looks awesome, as long as it's paid. If it's free, you don't get that orange banner. But if it's paid, you get that orange banner, and you can say you're a number 1 best-selling author on Amazon, or best-selling author on Amazon. But technically, the bestseller list is the top 100. I always say that the bestseller list is the top 100, but we don't brag about it until we hit top 10. When we hit top 10, we brag a little bit, but the reason why is because as you're hitting top 10, if you are taking a snapshot and posting on social media, you can say something like, oh my gosh, we've made top 10. I'm so excited. Thanks so much. Let's see if we can get it to number 1. It's kind of like thanking people and encouraging them to see if you can get even higher. So I would not brag about anything under number 10 personally, but technically, bestseller list is the top 100. So that's up to you and your comfort level. And then number 1, absolutely, I tell everybody it's great. And make sure that if your book is doing well in the market, or you're doing an ebook promo, anything like that, make sure that you're checking out the other Amazon websites, because there's Amazon.com, but there's also Amazon for Canada, UK, Australia, India, and you can rank in each of those different countries. So that's kind of fun, because then you can say you're an Amazon internationally best-selling author, or international Amazon best-selling author. That's way too much thought for a Friday morning. But top 10 and number 1, of course, you get that orange banner and brag away. Any recommendations on recording Spanish, English audiobook companies? Not specifically, Yvette. I would say Findaway Voices might have something there. You can, of course, do it yourself. I've heard great things about selling rights through Podium. And of course, you sell the rights and then they make your audiobook for you. So that's an option as well if you want to try to shop your book there. And I've heard of people doing that themselves, agents also, but you can try it yourself. but no, not specifically. We don't work too much with recording studios for audiobooks. That's a good question. All right. If you've got questions, drop them in the Q&A, but in the meantime, we keep getting a lot of questions about Amazon ads, how to set them up, how to monitor them, how to know if your Amazon ads are doing well. And so what I plan to do and hope to do is one of these Free Advice Fridays, I'd love to actually go live and show you guys setting up an Amazon ad. The problem is the New Shelves account is a big account. And because we are marketing other people's books in most cases, we do not have some of the features, and our dashboard does not look the same as most of your dashboards do. So if anyone is interested in having me set up an ad for you and looking at ads to see how they're doing and how we monitor it and make them better, if you would like to volunteer for us to go into your account live and show your ad account as we are setting that up, then please let me know. Please, yeah. Yes, I'm glad we've got some excitement here. If you would like to be considered, please email me questions@freeadvicefridays.com and email me your title, ISBN, and your Amazon page link. I will look through the people who submit, and we will pick one person to set up ads in, and then we will pick someone who my inbox may explode. One person to set up ads in, and one person who's already been running ads. I want to show how we can pull reports and actually read and analyze the data. So again, if you're interested, you must have published a book on KDP, and you must be willing to let me log into your account and show it live so that not your information obviously, but your actual ad account, so we can show setting up an account. And I'd like to do that live on a Free Advice Friday. So email me questions with an S at freeadvicefridays.com. All right, when prepping the ebook, should links be formatted as live HTML or plain text? I will be completely honest, I do not format ebooks. I have a wonderful, beautiful company that does it for me, and we work with them. But typically, I think you may be asking if it should be a clickable hyperlink. And absolutely, if you've got hyperlinks in your book, then I would hyperlink them for the digital versions. Just know that if you are linking to another sales site, if you are referencing a book and you are like taking it to a sales site, Amazon may not publish your book if they feel like those links are leading to their competition. So every once in a while you'll run into that. But if you are referencing your website, if you're referencing like an actual scientific document or something like that, if you're doing nonfiction, absolutely link that right in. I think that's what people like about digital, is that they're not copying and pasting a link. They can click and it takes them right there, and you can hyperlink right in. All right, the best ads to do for Christmas. So we do have a couple more weeks till Christmas, but let me say this. I'm getting a lot of questions from authors about, oh, the big push for Christmas. I've got books, and can I push them for Christmas? Yes, but not every book is a great book to push for Christmas time. A lot of sales happen in November, December, and January, absolutely. But make sure that you know who's buying your book, if it's likely to be gifted or not, so you know when to run your ads. If you have a children's book, now's the time to be running ads. If you have a book that's like a tabletop book, or a book that's a journal, or something that people would typically buy as a gift for someone, cookbooks are big ones, something like that, now is the time. If you have a self-help book, if you've got a book about stress, or if you've got a book about I don't know, stress, working out. If you've got a book, romance novels. These are typically things that people buy for themselves. I'm not saying that you shouldn't sell right now. I'm not saying you shouldn't market, but know that this is not your audience time. Now people are buying gifts for other people. Now, the day after Christmas, and then the month after, that's when people are typically buying things for themselves. They are buying things with gift cards. They got a new Kindle device and they want to load it up, or different things like that. But know your book. Romance novels aren't usually something that you buy for someone else. And maybe if you know them very well, maybe. Self-help books, financial books. I don't know about you, but if someone bought me a finance book for Christmas, I might be a little miffed. Unless obviously I'd been talking about that. But for the most part, again, it's important that you know your audience and you know when their buying habits tend to show up before you start advertising. So I'll get off my soapbox and talk about advertising. Advertising right now, Amazon's a great place. If you are, again, gift items, things like that, Amazon is a great place for advertising right now because a lot of people are on Amazon. They're shopping, they're looking around. Those giftable books that I was talking about, what's great about that right now is it's not just people looking for books who will be interested and who might find your books, but people looking for gifts. So make sure that you're using keywords like gifts for 10-year-old girls, or gifts for kids, or gifts for moms, different things like that. Those are good keywords right now because people are searching that. Absolutely. I did that this week. When I realized, I was like, yeah, we've got plenty of stuff for the kids. I have 2 presents each for them. Total fail. But so people do search that kind of thing, and those giftable items and those ads are good for Amazon. Facebook is also a good one. Facebook tends to be a great place to advertise for Kindle Unlimited. And the reason why is that people on Facebook browsing around aren't necessarily ready to click that buy button. It's not like someone on Amazon who's already got their credit card in hand, kind of virtually. People on Facebook may be interested in your book, but they aren't looking to spend money. But if it's Kindle Unlimited and you can say you can read for free, that's a lot different. And so we see a greater conversion there for Facebook. If it's Kindle Unlimited, Facebook is also a great spot for children's books, for parents, grandparents, sometimes those giftable items, but really children's books with parents and grandparents seems to be a big spot. BookBub, as we already talked about, if your book is discount. Now again, that's usually ebook, and the ebook is usually a self-purchase. So that might be something that you want to concentrate more on after the holidays, but BookBub is an option. And always, if you've got, on your blog, I've seen some people do some great blogs where they create a list of top gifts for 2020, top gifts for kids in 2020, top gifts for readers in 2020, and they list books that are other people's books, and they slip theirs right in there. Top books for our the 20 best giftable mysteries for 2020 or Christmas 2020, and you have 19 or 18 other authors in there, and then you slip yours in there. Those tend to actually do really well on SEO and getting picked up. So blogging can be super smart right now, and it doesn't cost you anything. It just takes some time. So you could even work with other authors. Maybe you're, slipping in some other authors in there, and then they help you share it on social media and different things like that. So that can be a savvy move as well. Any recommendations for how to find and work with illustrators? I've been reading that authors are usually expected to share a larger portion of profits with illustrators than other people who might help with the book. Yes and no. When you're working with an illustrator, sometimes you're working out a deal where you are sharing royalties. Generally, that can be anywhere from 1% to 6%. It depends on if you're a big publisher, if the illustrator is like super well known, and then you're also paying them outright. Or if you are working with an illustrator, you may be paying them not only for the illustrations, but for full rights to them. So it just depends on how you set it up. Obviously, if it's a well-known illustrator, then you're going to pay more, but you can also find illustrators on places like Upworks, Fiverr, and different places like that. And if you see a book that you really love, open up that book and see if you can find the illustrator. Go search them out and see what kind of pricing they have, or if they're looking for people to work with. And I think that's what you have to consider, is that your budget has to match your vision, and you have to make the match sometimes. Sometimes you may say, oh, wow, this guy's amazing, they're awesome, but then he may charge you $1,000 per illustration if you want flat out to own the illustration. So you kind of have to look at that, as well as your overall vision for the book. Let's see. Yeah, and if you're looking for other people, if you're looking for editors and proofreaders and things like that, if you go to newshelves.com, there's a resource button. And if you click on that resource button, there is a whole list of people that we recommend, our formatters, or proofreaders, editors. There are tons of people there that we recommend, that we work with. So that might be a good resource for you as well. And Erica's saying SCBWI. I'd love to know what that stands for, Erica. But SCBWI for children's books. I'm sure she'll pop in and let us know what that actually stands for. All right. Okay, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So if you are looking for a children's book, it sounds like the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators may be something worth searching out, Googling, and visiting their website. And again, if you want to find an illustrator that does great work, that works well with authors, go to your author groups, ask them, find out who other people are using, and that's a really great place to start. For sure. I mean, getting recommendations not only helps you find new people to work with, but it's kind of like getting we go on Amazon and we read those reviews before we buy something. Having someone personally say, I worked with this person and they were great, is kind of like reading those reviews. You're getting a recommendation personally before you work with someone, which can help build some trust rather than just starting from scratch. I mean, how many times does someone go, oh, you need a new hairdresser? I love mine, and look what they did to me, and isn't this awesome? You should call them. Well, if you hate that person's hair, then you know to stay far, far away. But if you love it, you immediately build some trust and some interest there. So it's the same kind of idea with illustrators and editors and that kind of thing. In this industry, word of mouth is key for finding good people to work with. All right, in the list of 1,000 keywords for Amazon ads, if you're running now, can you change edit keywords? Denise, I will give you the broad overview of that answer, but when we are able to get into someone's account and share, I'll be able to do more. But when you set up your keywords for a sponsored keyword ad on Amazon, you can change your bid, you can turn off a keyword if it's not working for you. If you have not used all your keywords, you can add in new keywords up to 1,000. So you do have some ability for movement, but it is not easy to actually change out keywords while something's running. It's not my preferred manner. I usually run an ad until it runs, and then I reset I pull the results, I reset my ad, and then I restart, because that helps me track it also. When you're looking to see whether or not your ad is performing well, it's hard to do that when you've been changing things all along the way, because then you don't know necessarily what exactly was the trigger to make it better or worse. So I personally am not a fan of setting an ad for a year and changing things the whole time along the way. I personally like to run shorter ads analyze the data, and then restart an ad with a different name. I name mine by the month and the year with the title, so that you can see from month to month what worked and what didn't work, and what tweaks or improvements may be worth continuing and which ones just aren't. We're getting a question about Ingramspark's press books. I believe they made some updates in just the last little bit, so I'm not going to answer that right now. But I will go check it out, and then I will answer that next week, because as I said, I know they've been making some updates, and I would like to have current information before I answer. But I see your question, and I will research it and get back to you on that one. All right, you guys, let's see. I know I've got a question over an email, so I'm going to hop over there, and if you've got questions, drop them in the Q&A box. I think I keep a folder with my Free Advice Friday questions, and I think half of them are about Amazon ads. My goodness. Okay. This question is about cover design. For cover design, the question is, should I have an artist create an illustration and have that artist then finalize my cover? That can work. That can work if the illustrator has some experience and specialization in cover design. But you guys, cover design has some very key things in it. There are different fonts that work, that don't work. There are different ways to place the art. And what I've seen happen in the past, for someone who just does great art, they may be an artist, obviously artist, they could be a painter, an illustrator, it could be someone who's a photographer. They do great art, and then someone goes, oh, well, you can just make my cover, right? Not necessarily, because you have to know where to place things. And sometimes what happens is when you get an artist to make a piece for the front cover, they don't want to cover it up. They're attached to that imagery. They're attached to their artwork. So rather than making the artwork fit with the cover and making the artwork be the background of the text, too often what we see is that artist gets attached to their work and they fit the text around the artwork. Not saying that never works. However, a lot of times it feels like the text, like your title, ends up being secondary rather than being what that piece of art was meant for. It looks like the wording was just part of the art. So I would say if this person has cover experiences, that is important. And as Bob is saying, best to have someone who has some understanding of marketing do it, or at least take a look at it. If you're not quite sure, have someone in marketing look at your cover, because I will tell you that I can look at a cover and within a minute, not even a minute, it's usually a couple seconds, I will tell you whether or not it's going to get attention online or not. I could not design a cover to save my life. Let's put it out there. I'm not a designer. I couldn't even, sometimes I can't even tell you what's not right about it, but I'm like, no, it's not going to work, because I know what sells and I know what markets. And so having a cover designer who knows what elements to put in there is so important, because your cover is the face of your book. If people don't like the cover, if it's not attention grabbing, if we can't clearly tell what the book's about or what the title is, you've lost it. You've lost a sale. You can't depend on people reading your description to buy your book. You have to realize that your cover is what draws them in, whether it's in a bookstore or it's online. The cover is kind of the clincher. That is what will get people interested in your book. So that's not something you want to play around with. Get a cover designer. And can you have special made art for your cover? Yes, 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 yes. There are beautiful covers that way. But don't get so attached to the art that you forget that it's a cover, because the main point of that art is to promo your book and to be your cover. It's not meant to just be pretty art. People buy paintings and things for that. Let's see. Yeah, and whoever does the cover needs to understand the genre and the audience. And that, I mean, that's what we do at New Shelves. Before we help with a cover, because we work with cover designers quite often, and we help people kind of guide them in the right direction. And the first thing we do is we're looking in the genre. We're looking at what's selling now. We're looking at what has historically sold, what works, what colors work and don't work. And almost never does the first cover end up being the cover. We saw that when Bob was a guest, where he showed us kind of all the covers that they went through to get to his final snowman cover. And that's what happens. It is something that ends up growing into something rather than just being. If you go, well, this is what I want, and first shot, that's all it is, rarely is it going to be the cover that you want. It takes input from an artist, from someone who knows the typography, from someone who knows the marketing, to really pull together something really beautiful that works in the market and also has your vision. Yes, we want, we want the cover to reflect what's inside in the story, but it's got to work in the market, or else it just doesn't work. So let's see. This year we printed a short early run of books on Lulu Express for local sale and ARCs to start building buzz, and we're shocked by the low quality. We moved to Ingramspark and did the same thing with the same result. We were seeing crushed spines and bent corners on at least 70% of the books. We used them for ARCs, but didn't feel we could responsibly sell them at cover price. You're asking if you're being too picky. Here's my question. Keep in mind that the quality of print on demand will never quite be the quality of an offset print run. Offset print run, they're setting the print up just for you. It's just better quality because they're setting up for a long-term run, but you're paying for 500 to 5,000 copies of the book, and then you have to warehouse them. Print on demand is a beautiful thing that allows us to get as little as one copy at a decent price. If you have a book that is, let's say, a novel, I think print on demand is great. I think it's awesome. And you may be able to tell the difference if we're holding a really high quality book in your hand and a print on demand, but the average reader isn't going to be able to tell the difference. And obviously it's a lot less expensive, which has its perks. So keep that in mind. But if you have a lot of illustrations, if you have art, if you have high detail, if you've got a cookbook, sometimes you either have to upgrade your paper or your color in order to really make that book shine. And sometimes that doesn't work effectively for pricing, and that's why people go to offset print many times for that type of book. So it depends on the type of book that you have. Now, if you are getting a problem with crushed spines, bent corners, that kind of thing, and it's really bad, then I would contact whoever you got those books from and talk to them about shipping. Many times if you have damaged books, they will they will return them, or they're covered by the shipping agency. It just depends. But keep in mind that and print on demand, like I said, it's got some of its ups and downs. It can be wonderful, but it's not perfect. It's an electronic copy, and so sometimes we have to return books and get new ones. But I think it's setting your expectations to what print on demand is and what offset print is. And if you really need high quality, high color, special paper, that kind of thing, then offset print may be what you need to do, but it comes at a cost. So you weigh your options and you weigh what's most important to your book and what you're willing and able to deal with for your book. Some people simply can't. Some people have to decide, I either get this children's book out, print on demand, and it may not be the quality that I had hoped and dreamed of, but there's no way that I can do a 500 to 1,000 copy run and then warehouse those myself and then ship them out through Amazon Advantage or something like that. It's just not an option. In that case, you do print on demand. But that's a personal decision. You have to decide what works for you. All right. Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, so Julie's saying they did get a refund, which is great. I'm glad that they worked with you. And yes, sometimes, I mean, depending on your book, you definitely want some quality with your brand. But know also, look at other books out in the marketplace and know that sometimes you're being your harshest critic. And so are you, is your perfectionism keeping you out of the market? If so, then maybe it's time to think on it a little bit. If not, and it's really that bad, well, then that's a whole different issue. Where can I find the best cover size and trim size? If you go to our website, newshelves.com, I do have a rainbow. Sorry, guys. If you go to newshelves.com, if you go to our blog, one of the blogs there is trim sizes that were updated for fall 2020. And so if you go there, you will find a trim size for children's books. You will find them for nonfiction and fiction and all of the above. So visit newshelves.com at the blog there. Yeah, and Nancy is highly recommending Bookmobile in Minnesota, saying that they have very high quality print on demand. So sometimes there is print on demand, and there are local smaller companies that do it. So that's an option as well. Given the pandemic, does it make sense to publish ebook before the print copy? Generally, I recommend that you do the print and the ebook at the same time, unless you've got a specific reason. Ebooks are selling like hotcakes right now, for sure, but paperbacks are I mean, they're not obsolete. So if it's a couple weeks difference and you're maybe trying to build up your reviews, sure. But if you are like thinking months out, I generally would do them together. You'll make a bigger splash that way, and you will be getting your customer. If a customer goes to your page to look for your book and it's not available in paperback and that's all they read, they will probably never look at your book a second time. So you don't want to lose readers because you don't have the format that they expect to see. And that's one reason why we always recommend to do both paperback and ebook at the same time. And Cheryl is asking, the resource in Minnesota, again, that's Bookmobile. And I will type that in there. Yes, aren't we all our harshest critic all the time? And sometimes I will say, to the point of being your harshest critic, we are. Sometimes it helps to go to someone that we know will be honest with us and ask them if we are being too harsh. And sometimes it helps literally taking two books, go buy a book from the bookstore and then compare it to your book, but give it to someone else to give you an honest answer. Now, you cannot go to a yes man for this. You cannot go to someone who just wants to either shut you up or make you happy. You have to go to someone who's willing to say, no, this is awful, with love in their heart. I think that's one reason why Amy and I work so well together, is because we are each other's biggest fans. I mean, I know Amy has stepped back from New Shelves, but we still talk almost every day. We are encouraging each other, but when something is not good, it's usually a little bit of a silence and I like this idea, but no, that's awful. And you have to have those people in your life. You have to have the people who will encourage you and who you trust, but who will also kind of check you when either your perfectionism or your artisticness, sometimes it's just, I have this great idea and I think it's fabulous, and then someone else just needs to pull you back from the ledge and tell you you're crazy. So you have to have those people in your life that keep you from being your harshest critic when that paralyzes you. You cannot let perfection paralyze you, because then you'll never go forward. You'll never move, and you have to start somewhere. So, can you talk about the perils of not going print on demand in that terrifying warehouse full of skids of books? So if you are not going print on demand, let's talk about offset print run. If you do an offset print run, that literally means that you are getting a print run of typically a large quantity. It can be as low as like 100. It can be as many as thousands. This is how big publishers do it. They actually get a print run of 5,000 or more copies, typically, depending on the book. They have those printed many times overseas, sometimes in the US, and then they have those sent to a warehouse, and a warehouse holds those until they are needed at a wholesaler, or they're distributed out. You can do this. You can, self-published authors, small press can do this. Get offset print run. You can hire a distributor to warehouse your books, and then as Ingram or Baker and Taylor needs them, they ship them out. You can do that. It just comes with a price. Number one, the price up front, because no one's printing your books until you've paid them, or at least put a hefty down payment on. So then you own 5,000 copies of your book. If it doesn't sell, you still own 5,000 copies of your book. If you find a misprint that is just awful and it was your fault, you own 5,000 copies of a misprint. So it does come with its risks, and that's why print on demand is so popular. It does make each book cheaper per unit. So if I'm doing print on demand, let's say a book is $4 to print on print on demand. If I go offset print and I'm buying 5,000 copies, it might be $2.50 at higher quality. But I don't own one book, I own 5,000 books. And so I'm paying, much more money up front to get those books. And then I have to pay to warehouse them, and I have to pay a distributor. It depends, again, on your needs. This is why we self-publish. This is why we kind of take the control in our own hands, because then we get to decide if that risk is worth it, if it makes sense for our brand and our books to do that. Sometimes it does. Sometimes for children's books, it does. I'm working with a company right now. They have this awesome children's book that they are just getting out into the marketplace, and they've sold 30,000 copies since September. At that point, it's worth it to get some offset print and warehousing. So sometimes it is absolutely worth it. It makes sense. You make more money, but you have to weigh that for yourself and to really take an honest look at your numbers, your needs, and your brand before you do that. And sometimes there is also the option, I would be remiss if I did not say, there's an option for offset print where you get them shipped to you, and then you warehouse them in your garage, your basement, or your bedroom, whatever works for you. And then what happens is you are hand selling them, which means you're either selling them on your website, and as you're getting orders in, you're selling them, you're actually shipping them out, or you're using Amazon Advantage or Seller Central, and you're essentially acting like a seller on Amazon, and you are selling the books, and again, you're shipping them out. You can do that as well. It's just a lot more work. It's not, I mean, print on demand, they click the button to order. KDP prints the book out, they ship it out, and you just sit back and enjoy the royalty. It's a lot less work when you do print on demand, but again, quality is a little bit different, and the reward can be a little bit lower because we pay more for print on demand. So weigh it out. Let's see. Is there a way to see editorial reviews? I've had a few authors tell me they put review, but I can't find them. Well, Trina, question for you. Editorial review means that it's coming from an editorial, like a newspaper or a magazine. If someone put in a review through like Amazon, that would go like in your star rating or your ranking, your actual like rating that goes with stars on Amazon. So two different things, and people may have done one or the other. No one else can, at least on your Amazon page, post an editorial review for you. That's something you do through Author Central, and you put it in to Author Central. If they are doing like a rated review, that would show up on your reviews on Amazon, but they may not be using their actual name. They could be using Book Girl 5127 or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be their name. So it's possible that's happening. If they are saying they blogged a review, that's different. You'd have to look up their blog. And then if it's a true editorial review from Midwest Book Review or Booklist or Shelf Awareness, something like that, that's usually published on their website and in their magazine, newspaper, that kind of thing. In which case you have to check out their requirements and their policy for quoting, and then you can quote that, like I said, in your editorial reviews on Amazon through Author Central. And you can make graphics and all sorts of cool things. So different things can be found different places. It just depends on exactly what you're talking about. And I'll bring it up. Next week, I can't even keep the week straight, you guys. Next week on The Book Designer, I have an article coming out all about pitching your book for professional third-party reviews, which are editorial reviews. And there's going to be a whole article about what's happening right now with that and how it's actually easier than ever to pitch your book for professional reviews because everything's kind of moved online. So, how many libraries are in the US and Canada? I will give you general numbers. I don't know for Canada, to be honest. It's not something I've worked in or looked up too much, but in the US, we have over 100,000 public libraries. I believe we have just over 13,000 public library systems. So that's like the, the different systems, and then that one main branch may have 5 little branches. So over 100,000 in the US, and that's not including academic libraries, which I believe there's another 15,000. This data, I believe, is from, I want to say it's 2018. Libraries tend to be a little slow with their data, but it's a lot. There's a lot of libraries. I mean, you think about it, I live right outside of Rochester, New York, and so Rochester, New York is a pretty big city, and they have their libraries, certainly, but they have more than one in Rochester, and then each little town, many of them have libraries. So when you start adding all of those up across the US, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, which is why libraries can be such an amazing opportunity. Because if you're selling your book into libraries, if you sell one book into a 10th of the libraries in the US, you've sold 10,000 books. And that's assuming that they only buy one copy. So that is why marketing to libraries can be so lucrative. And then people visit, the stats from the last couple of years have been that people visit libraries more often than bookstores. And yes, they're not paying for the book every time they're checking it out, but they are seeing a book, they are falling in love with authors, and then they do go look them up and follow them and buy their next book. Or there's a wait list and I didn't want to wait for this book, so I just read it on Kindle Unlimited, or that kind of thing. So not only is there actual sale opportunities in libraries, but there is a ton of marketing opportunity because your book is on a shelf. It's being seen and marketed and read and can get reviews. So there's a lot to libraries, and it's a fantastic place to get your book out to. And to that end, on the 17th, this will be going out soon. If you're not on our mailing list, you should absolutely join it, because when we do free webinars, we let you know. And on the 17th, we are doing a webinar on libraries, and on libraries specifically in 2020. So if you want to get in on that, it's always free for that type of webinar. It's free to watch, and they're usually about an hour. And we have one set for the 17th. If a blogger reviews your book, may you put them in Amazon Author Central? Yes, if a blogger reviews your book, you can treat it like an editorial review, and you may use an excerpt from the blog and quote them in your editorial reviews. That's what most of the authors that I work with do. I wouldn't put the whole blog in there, especially if it's long. Take an excerpt and make sure that you give them credit. Yeah. How do I get my book cover to show up in the Worldcat system? Generally, the Worldcat system pulls from Bowker. So if you bought your own ISBNs, go over to Bowker, which is myidentifiers.com, and make sure that your cover is up there. Most of the time, that's where they pull from. So if the information is incorrect on Bowker, it oftentimes is incorrect there. And also, if you have a PCIP, a Library of Congress number, a CIP, any of that, make sure that it's updated with those folks as well. All right, you guys, it's right at 11, and so I've got a dash. Again, if you would like your book to be considered for our Amazon ad demonstration, please email me questions@freeadvicefridays.com. You must have a published book on KDP. You must be willing to let me access that and use it for show and tell. Just send the title, the ISBN, and your Amazon link. Until next time, you guys, I will see you next Friday. Bye.